Hello, Postables! You're listening to Deliver Me a Podcast, hosted by Casey, Jess, and me, Cammie. Special thanks to James Jandrish for letting us use his amazing music. Now, sit back, relax, grab a yoo-hoo and a stamp collection, and here we go. Hey, Postables! How's it going? Welcome to Deliver Me a Podcast. We are so...
Well, 2 out of 3 of us are so.
Here you guys go. I brought the tissue fell out.
Isn't she sweet?
So I really wish I had like a prop mop to have with me right now, but I don't. So that's why I brought the tissues as a prop.
Oh, I have a mop. I just can't get it right now, but my kids have a play mop from Melissa and Doug. It's like this little thing and it's a little mop.
Oh, cute.
I know.
I've got a little Mickey Mouse vacuum, but that's about it.
Vacuum your tears.
Well, you're going to have to vacuum up. See, once you mop up, then there's going to be pieces everywhere. So you'd have to vacuum it up. You know?
The remnants of our tissues.
There you go. Or the remnants of stuff being torn apart during the angry parts. You know?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Channeling your inner Norman.
Yeah, exactly. Good job. Okay, let's get started. We start off with some very disturbing footage of Hurricane Katrina. I still can't quite get over how catastrophic that was.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because we're talking about a real event now.
Yeah.
And there have been some real events, 9/11 and The Edge of Forever. And, you know, they've been sprinkled in and out of the episodes and the movies. But, you know, this was an extremely recent one, comparatively. And we were all, not only were we alive, but we were adults. So we kind of grasped the full thing of the, we kind of grasped the full spectrum of the catastrophe. And it just, I still can't get over just how destructive it was.
I mean, to give you guys a perspective, so I live in Pensacola, Florida, right. And that is 200 miles from New Orleans, which is about a 3-hour drive without traffic. And we were feeling the effects over here of Katrina. Like, that is how monstrous Katrina truly was. Like, we didn't have school in Florida. Like, it was big. I remember waking up and my mom was like, yep, no school today. And I'm like, okay. And we were just watching and it was like pouring down rain and it was so windy. I mean, obviously not as windy as it was in like New Orleans, but I mean, it was still really, really windy. We had a hurricane earlier that summer that tilted our pool fence over. So it was like tilted so many degrees. And Katrina, because it was blowing the opposite direction, tilted that thing back up.
Oh my gosh.
Like, that is how big Katrina was. It was a big hurricane.
How old were you?
15.
Oh, I guess you weren't an adult, but
no.
you were old enough.
Old enough to remember. I think I was in 10th grade.
Old enough to know what was going on.
Yeah.
Jess, how old were you when?
What year was it again?
2005.
5.
I was in 6th grade, I think.
You really weren't an adult.
I know when you said that, I'm like, I'm pretty sure I was in grade school. Or junior high, I guess.
I was 22, 23.
Yes, we were babies.
Indeed you were.
Well, I know for us, so back to the hurricane, like for us, we were very nervous because the year before we had Hurricane Ivan, which was just it was a little bit smaller than Hurricane Katrina, but we were still trying to get back to normal life a year later, because Ivan was September 16th, 2004, and then Katrina was August 30th, 2005.
Something like that.
So, I mean, hurricane devastation is
no joke.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
Oh my word. All right. So we see this very sweet, mild-mannered man named, well, we find out that his name is Gabe. And he's just trying to keep his own spirits up as well as people around him by just strumming the guitar, playing a little bit of music to keep things going. And we find out that he didn't have anybody to lose.
I know, that line was so sad.
I don't know what's worse, to lose somebody or to not have anybody to lose. It's just, but it's funny that he would say that, because I guess he didn't think of himself as losing Hattie because it was so new. But you ask me, he lost her all the same.
I do, though. I do want to say something about Kebmo, the actor. He was actually, I looked at his IMDb, he was also in Touched by an Angel. So he already knew Martha from that. Yeah. It was like a nice Martha connection. I'm like, that's so cool.
Yeah. When I saw him on Home and Family right before this premiered, and he talked about how he was good friends with Martha. And I think that he mentioned that he had been on an episode of Touched by an Angel. So yeah.
He was in 5 of them.
Okay.
So yeah, I was like, oh, that's really awesome. And then
he came back to this to help Martha out because she had asked him if he would do it.
Well, he was perfect for the role.
He was great, yeah.
And then Hattie's played by Karen Holness, and if she looks familiar,
love Karen
because she's been in
everything.
But I don't think she's ever been a lead, which is a real shame, because as we see and hear, she's a fantastic actress. So
yeah.
Hallmark, get Karen a lead role.
Oh my gosh, Karen! she's been on some Up TV movies as well, but she is so versatile. That's the word for her. She is so versatile. She is so good. I love Karen. I adore Karen. We need to have her on here.
Karen, come on our podcast.
Karen paging Karen. All right. So we skip to 12 years later with the Postables packing up Eleanor's office. So story-wise, this needed to happen because they needed to find the kombucha. They needed to find the kombucha recipe, and they also needed to find the blender and all of that. So story-wise, I understand why this happened, but can you please tell me why the members of the dead letter office department are cleaning out the office of the passport supervisor?
Because she was in Oliver's choir, right? We had that connection, or the church.
Yeah, no, it was her church. Yeah,
that was kind of my assumption. I was kind of like, maybe they got wind of HR going, to pack it up, and Oliver was like, you know what? I was good friends with Eleanor and her family, so I shall pack it up. Crew, let's go.
I just think that's funny. That you got the dead letter office packing up passports.
They have wide powers of postal discretion. This is part of their job.
Right. That explains it all. Okay. So we find a letter that at first Oliver is very irritated with. Gabe, a mile high. Do you guys notice that he did not even put his last name there? He has a last name. But Yeah, he never put his last name, and that would have made it a whole lot easier to find him if he had put his
Mhm.
last name. But yeah, he just said Gabe a mile high. Maybe I'm wondering, did they even exchange last names? You know?
Maybe not, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
plus he maybe assumed it would get to her and it wouldn't need to be returned to sender.
Yeah.
Um,
So we have a very cute, as Oliver put it, a very cute return address. Will they never learn of Gabe a mile high? But we find out just a couple minutes later, the postmark is September 5th, 2005.
Mm-hmm.
As we get into the letter, we go back to 2005 and we see Hattie's Backstreet Blues. Adorable, adorable name for a club. So, he had just come in from building some porch steps and he was exhausted. And Hattie says, everybody sings for their supper on Tuesdays or Wednesdays, baby, or something like that. I love how she calls him baby. It's so cute. It's already familiar. She's making herself a permanent fixture in his life with just a few exchanged sentences of conversation. And
Really showing that Southern
I would say it's
hospitality.
very, very southern.
It's very Southern.
It's very Southern. It's very Southern. But she's also she's showing familiarity. She's showing a mothering instinct without treating him like a child.
Mm-hmm.
She's taking care of him because he says, "May I please have a ginger ale?" That's probably all he could afford. But then she says, "Are you hungry?" So he's hungry like Sunday after church, which we all know there's something about going through church that makes you really, really hungry. We cut back to the DLO, and it's just the Postables taking in the letter. And one thing that I love that Shane says is that's the great thing about New Orleans. You can be all kinds of things. One thing that we cannot pass up happening here is Rita and Norman's new pet.
A potato.
I'm sorry. I just, you know, if they wanted to take the next step in their relationship, why a potato? You know what I mean?
Because it's, easier than a puppy.
It's a whole lot easier than a puppy.
Although Oliver calls it, I believe, untidy. I'm like, it's a potato in a cup.
Well, it's the odor. It's the odor.
It's also budding. It's gonna bud.
Yeah, and sprout. I'm not a fan of that either.
But it's just a potato in a cup. Again, it's tinier than a puppy.
A certain odor.
Which probably smells better than a puppy too. I mean, just saying.
That's very true.
But I'm with you. Why a potato?
At least it's better than a pet rock, right? As Shane says, just think of it as a pet rock with the potential to become a side dish. I love that line. I thought it was so clever. And then, of course, she gets in between them. Just look at these little faces.
I mean, how can you say no to Norman and Rita?
Well, yeah. I think that he was about to, and then Miss McInerney got in the middle and he lost all power over the word no.
Got him wrapped.
Got him wrapped. All right, so then let's go to the date. Ooh.
Oh, the date that he obviously talked to Eleanor about.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Buddy with Eleanor.
Telling you. So Oliver shows up on her porch, and of course the first thing he does after he rings the doorbell is
start cleaning up.
Cleaning the porch swing.
Like they're not going to be sitting on.
But why?
I know,
I
I'm
don't-
really confused by that.
But
Oh,
why?
no. Oh no, guys. It's that thing is his pride and joy where their relationship is concerned. It is tangible evidence of his feelings for her.
But he's not
Yeah.
even wiping, he's like whacking it.
Whack, whack, get rid
It's
of
so
that.
fast. And then he's like, oh, no, she's here.
It's like when
Like
the old times when they would beat a rug to get the dust out.
Right,
But it doesn't
exactly.
work that way for a porch sweep.
So, what do you guys think about Shane's take on jazz music?
I'm not musical enough, so that was all lost to me.
You know, it's interesting because jazz and blues can sound very much
Similar?
the same.
Yeah.
You wouldn't really know the difference. But there's a distinct style in jazz and a distinct style in blues, and the background behind jazz and blues are also slightly different. But I think it's interesting that she picked up on that. She's
Mhm.
very cultured and very, I don't know what the word is.
Versatile.
Yes, versatile. And I love how she just pulled out the napkin and just started doodling, and Oliver's like staring her down like, this is fascinating. Must watch Shane doodle on napkin.
But I mean, it is interesting to, I mean, I've been through that exercise in school where they tell you draw what you feel while you listen to this music or whatever, but I don't know, it for her to put that kind of picture, it looked like one of those made up machines that we had to design as kids. You know, they would say, draw your design for a machine. It looked like a machine that had broken and was splitting apart with sparks or something like that. I don't know exactly how to describe it, but it was just it was such an interesting way to visually show what she was feeling, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was really interesting. And then they missed their reservation at Montaldo's, which kind of is, for me, that was a little frustrating because Montaldo's had been such a disaster the first time. I was like, let's get back in the saddle. Let's go back and kind of make it right there and, you know, make our peace with that place. Of course, you can't have too many locations in one scene or it would make the movie horribly long, but still, I was like, they missed their reservation to Montaldo's, dang it.
That didn't really strike me because my thought was, wow, these two had a lot to talk about too.
That they couldn't even keep track of the time.
That and
It's a good sign.
dinner.
It's a good sign.
Well, they can order food at the E Flat Lounge, which is a good thing.
I mean, sure, but
Yeah.
Montaldo's and the fancy food with, you know, the lemon curd. How can you give that up?
Yeah. But maybe it's a good thing they didn't go back because it probably would have brought back some memories that weren't pleasant.
That part I will completely agree with. The part that, you know, maybe it's a good thing that they didn't go back because, number one, it means they lost track of time because they were having such a great time together. And then the other part is that, you know, it's good to just go make new memories in a new place. So
Yeah.
that part I will agree with. Definitely.
If they went back, you know, there probably would have been a reprise of If I Loved You, and Oliver would have to
yeah.
like, well, I do love you, but I can't say it yet. So
Except this time Oliver grabbed her hand. Grab it.
Okay, down girl. Let's go.
It's all made up in the next scene.
I was about to say, let's skip to the part where he does grab her hand. when she trips and he grabs both of her hands, actually. And I love his immediate concern. Just, I mean, she does a tiny little stumble, and not only does he rush to her side and grab both her hands, and immediately it's should we call a cab?
After he says, shall we call a cab? She says no, because she doesn't want to let go of his hands. She is making it known that she is totally okay with them taking that next step.
Yeah, this woman is probably the only woman who could knock through the armor on Oliver. Because he needs it spelled out. I am interested in you. Take that next step, baby. If we were talking like Hattie.
And I think, it's interesting with Shane and Oliver, because Shane, with Oliver being so formal and very old-fashioned, it's usually the man that leads the relationship, right?
Right.
But when it comes to Shane, he is totally okay with her giving him signals like, yes,
he's too
please
insecure
hold my
because
hand.
of his whole Holly thing.
Yeah, and he needs that. He needs somebody to be a little more forward with him and a little more obvious, because apparently these last 100 movies, when Shane is not as obvious, there are a lot of miscommunications and such, and there's a lot of back and forth with these two. So I feel like at this point, Shane has really learned Oliver, and she knows exactly what he needs in order to take that next step. Because I guarantee you, if she didn't tell him, like, but then I'd have to let go, batting of the eyelashes, he would have been like, no, let's take a cab. We must keep you safe. He would be like the chivalrous one. And, we'd have this like dancing around again. But this is exactly what we need to lead up to the next scene.
If you're not watching on YouTube, you need to come on right now and see Casey batting her eyelashes.
Then there's me just internally shaking my head.
Oh, poor Jess. She puts up with so much when we start talking romance.
Oh, I know.
Which is why I like the next scene much better than I was not frustrated by the next scene as much as Cammy.
I wasn't either. Frustrated.
No.
Yes, it's a beautiful moment. It's a beautiful moment, and we know what happened. But I was so frustrated. I'm like, no, I want to see it.
Like the way her hand just like tightens on the rail. There's something very, very sensual about that.
It is
incredibly, yes, I will admit it, but I still wanted to see it.
Casey needs a fan.
Dan.
She's back in the masterpiece with the dance.
Here we go. Come on. Breathe, Casey, breathe.
Tears and a fan. I need a tissue and I need a fan.
I don't have a fan, but I do have a tissue.
There we go.
Oh man.
Oh,
it was hot. I don't care what anybody else says.
No,
it was hot.
It's true, but it frustrated me because I wanted to see it. I wanted to see it so much. And like Oliver says later, it was way too short.
Yeah. Well, it was also a nod to that old movie. The Postables have caught this a long time ago. I forget what the movie is.
An Affair to Remember.
Thank you. Yeah. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to give a nod to the classics, but still.
I like that they had their kiss in private, though. I really did. I was so taken. Now I've never seen An Affair to Remember, but the music, the mood, the hand on the rail, like everything about it was like, wow. I feel, and here's the thing too, like this relationship, yes, we've waited so long for them to finally establish that they are more than a thing, more than friends, whatever. But with Oliver being so formal and very old-fashioned, and just these two at odds finally coming together, I just felt like it was appropriate for their first kiss to be an off-screen kiss. I don't know, there was just something about it that just made me go, oh, bring on the fans! Holy cow!
I didn't say it wasn't good cinematically. I just was frustrated because I wanted to see it.
I don't care either way. I mean, I'm with Jess. I thought it was, everything aside, I was more than okay to see their kiss off like
through her hand.
Through her hand. Is that a thing?
And well, no matter how gleeful or giddy or hot we all feel at that point, it all comes crashing down when we hear the squeaking porch swing and somebody shows up. Oh, Steve.
Oh, hey, Steve.
Yeah, I do have to say, good on you, Shane, because can we speak privately? No.
No.
Yeah. That, oh, I, that was, I took a writing class a couple years ago, and one thing that they taught us is never give the protagonists what they want. And that was one of the elements of good writing is you always keep them from what they want. And boy, were we kept from what we want that time. It's like, go away, Steve, go away. And then not only does he show up and interrupt a perfectly good evening, he's taking her away and she needs her passport. So,
Yeah. Passport and radio silence.
It's frightening. It's frightening when you think about it. Here's what I wanted to have happen. You know, Steve says, go inside, pack a bag, grab your passport. I wanted her to grab Oliver's hand, leave Steve outside on the squeaky porch swing, and bring Oliver inside while she packed a bag so that they could be together and talk and actually kind of finish up their evening. And I mean, he wasn't going to kiss her right in front of Steve, but maybe he would have kissed her again if they could have been by themselves.
Amy's still pining for that kiss.
I am still pining for that kiss.
Well, no, you do make a good point though, because it's like she goes inside and then that's it. Like
he goes.
And he leaves. Like you would think that these two people who have just literally just established that they are more than just friends
would do something about it.
Right. Like you said, shove him inside and be like, I'm so mad right now, throwing things, da-da-da-da. Like, I feel like, especially with Shane being such a bombastic person anyways, like, she's always like, I don't want to say bullying her way into things, but you know, like we've seen her in the pilot.
She's a force of nature.
She's a force of nature. She does what she wants. But this, for whatever reason, in this moment, she's like, I guess I gotta go.
Yeah, I was surprised he didn't come in because they never really said goodbye. Not like a true goodbye.
That was the other thing. It's like, pull him into the house. Yes, you have to pack a bag, but he can be there. You know, dang it.
Yeah. He can make you a cup of coffee or something.
Something.
You can have your real kiss inside your house.
Yeah. So now we start dealing without Shane. I call it striving with no Shane.
Back to the old stages of everything taking so long.
Right.
Hacking.
So here's one interesting thing that I find really, really odd is all of the things that Oliver does to keep busy, except for playing poker, everything has something to do with Shane.
Mm-hmm.
And I think poker is the way to get him distracted to stop thinking about Shane. Of course, it doesn't work because the conversations are always brought back whenever they're having their poker night. But oiling the swing, Shane. Cutting back the roses, Shane. Finding Gabe and Hattie, he made a promise, Shane. He moved her desk, Shane. Perfecting the kombucha smoothie recipe, Shane. Everything had something to do with her while he was trying to stay busy to not deal with the fact that she was gone.
Yeah. And like until he moved her desk, she was still a very sacred she had a sacred place in the DLO.
Yeah, he
You
was
notice,
clearing off her desk
Yeah.
or dusting it or something. Yes,
because Norman,
absolutely.
he puts that bin on top of her desk and they're talking, and he's just subconsciously picks it up and then straightens out her iPad holder and then takes it away. And Rita and Norman are like, oh.
Their faces are so fallen. They do not know what to do.
Oh, and the sigh, that one sigh when Norman and Rita are like talking about, stuff or whatever. And then you hear Oliver go, oh.
I know.
And they're like, oh, we've never seen Oliver like this before.
So
At least not since Shane.
I know. So Ramon to the rescue. we need to make that a shirt. Ramon to the rescue. Put him in a Zorro outfit or something. It fits. So Zach, what do you think about that?
Yeah.
Do you like that idea? Putting Ramon in a Zorro outfit and doing Ramon to the rescue?
Yeah, that would be something.
That would be something. So he has recently purchased the Mailbox Grill, and he thinks that what Oliver needs are the 3 P's. Pasión, which we all know is very rampant in Ramon. Patole, and
Poker.
I love the way he says it. Poker.
I love the way Rita's like, I love poker.
Oh my gosh. I never, ever would have pegged Rita. I would have pegged her for being really good at it, but I never would have pegged Rita for being really good at poker.
And just how she all of a sudden, her voice goes from up here to like, poker.
She gets
poker.
real serious about poker.
And Norman's just like, what?
Who are you?
So while they're at poker night, this is, Ramon is very much the comic relief. He's very much there to get in the way, especially with Norman and Rita. But there are so many times when the character of Ramon really shows his usefulness. And this is one of the big times. Not only is he getting Oliver distracted by offering poker night, but he said, whatever happened to that man, Gabriel? And they said, oh, we've tried everything. We've tried this. We've tried this. We've tried this. Have you tried music? Music?
Oh,
No.
great idea, Ramon.
I know. It's a fabulous idea. And not only does he give them the idea, but he is the facilitator. He says, Thursday is, I love how he says it, Yaz night. So, okay, this was going to be a trivia question, but I will save you guys the agony. Friday is alternative Latin garage punk grunge night, of course. But Saturday will be blues night. And not only is he giving a fabulous idea, but he's the facilitator. He said, I'm going to set this up so that he will come to us and you can find him, which is fabulous. And
he was surprisingly invested in this story.
He was very invested
in the letter story.
Yeah, maybe it's because he's a singer. I mean, not a singer, but a musician.
Well, it's the first time he actually sat down with him and heard the letter. So it's the first time he really got the story. He got to hear the letter.
Or he would, he has been invited by Rita before, but I think it's the first time that the entire group invites him to sit down and listen to the letter, even if he does steal a bite of Norman's cake.
He's also an overly romantic person also. So it could be the fact that this is the guys are seeing the romance in the letter. Unlike Shane.
Oh my gosh. Let's talk about that for a second. So Shane, when she was there, she said, all we know about Gabe is he walked into a blues club and had a good meal. And Oliver's the one who said, and fell in love. I just think that is a total switch from the last time when we were talking about something good. You know, it was Shane who was saying the singer was in love, and Oliver saying, a girl keeps a guy's guitar in a closet, and all of a sudden they're in love, and you just roll your eyes. And now Oliver's the one who's saying that the letter writer is in love, and Shane's the one that missed it. It's just, it's so sweet.
That happened in the pilot too, with Charlie and Kelly's letter.
Yes, that's right. That's right. With Shane. Absolutely. So we don't meet Gabe, but we do meet Big Joe Hopkins, who's a trumpet player, and he sends them to, I think his name was Ephraim. I couldn't really understand him. He was speaking so quickly, but Ephraim, who is a blues player at the E flat lounge. And of course, that brings up memories in and of itself. But he's the one that leads them to Gabe, because Gabe is the
5280 man.
5280 man. That is so profound. I mean, there's no other, it doesn't really seem like something that would be considered profound, but I think it is so profound given what we learn about how Gabe is always trying to get to higher ground. And it's just, it is so
it's like
profound.
The connections, like it all goes back to like the original conversation with Hattie. He talked about higher ground. She talked about feeling like a mile high when she would go up somewhere and thank God for all her blessings. And it's like everything is connected. It's very, very good writing, Martha.
They find him. Finally, they find him. And I love the song he's singing. It's God trying to get your attention. It's so fitting. It's so fitting with all the things that have been happening to them and all the things that have been happening to him. You know, it's maybe God's trying to get your attention. And so now they are even more determined to find Hattie.
Or find out what happened to Hattie. Because right now they presume she's dead.
Yeah, which is,
and you feel really bad for Oliver, because he's trying to tell him, like, so the thing is, and like you could tell he's gonna say it, Hattie is presumed not alive, but he cannot say it. He cannot say it out loud.
Not after that man has been there at that same place every week for 12 years. He can't say it. I couldn't say it.
No.
There is no way that I could say it.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And what's really interesting too about this is that Oliver is the one who's like, it's like, we're still gonna try to find Hattie, even though they've already done their role. They've returned to sender, because that's what they were supposed to do at that point, was return to sender. They finished what they're supposed to do, and so it's a callback to when Shane did the same thing for Phoebe. They delivered the letter to Phoebe, but then they went back to try to find the sender of the letter. So it's like the opposite, I guess. They're going back to the recipient, but I was like, that's a really nice callback and a role reversal for Shane and Oliver.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Can we just mention really fast how the Postables or at least Oliver, he's done a lot of like all-nighters. Because
oh my god,
they're the same outfit that they were the night before at the blues night.
They are pulling, especially Oliver, like you said, they are pulling so many all-nighters in this movie. Oliver pulls a minimum of 2, and I think it's more like 3 or 4 that he pulls. It's just, it's terrible. So let's talk about Joe for a second. Joe is, of course, laid back, easygoing one, but with a lot of very valuable wisdom. And my favorite words of wisdom that he gives to Oliver, because he's worried about Shane and is she coming back, and Oliver's holding on to, well, given our last date. I don't think she's going to stay away. And okay, you need to stop banking on that, son. You know, you know? And he says, one kiss doesn't make a contract, which I find is so reminiscent of previous episodes when the stamp is the smallest contract. I'd never thought about it until I heard it this time around. I went, oh my gosh. Are we talking about, are we kind of doing a nod to a stamp as the smallest contract, but one kiss doesn't make a contract? You know, and I just think it's very interesting how he's encouraging him to keep moving forward and to keep trying. And that's the reason, I have no doubt in my mind, that his conversation with his dad is what prompts him to fly to Langley.
See, I thought it was his conversation with Norman that prompted him to fly to Langley.
Yes, I agree with you on that, but I think that that's what started it. I think that the conversation with dad is what kind of began the motivation, and then the conversation with Norman kind of puts the final stamp on it. Okay, I'm going. That's my view. That's my view.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. One kiss doesn't make a contract, but I was kind of like, oh, just because like Oliver is so, he is a moral perfectionist.
Oh, absolutely.
But
two kisses would have made a contract.
Sure. He could have had his chance, but Oliver is such a moral perfectionist in the sense of like, okay, we are a thing. We've kissed.
It is a contract for him.
It is a contract for him.
No, that's what, and that's what dad has to talk him out of.
And it just, in his mind, because his dad has said this, now he's thinking like, it's now placing doubt in his mind that Shane actually meant all the things, you know, the kiss, their relationship, the hand holding, all of that stuff. That I feel like put a little bit of PTSD into Oliver, because then all of a sudden he goes into this whole like he was sad before. Now he's just an angry, depressed man. You know, and like you can see when he starts moving her desk and he puts it away on the other side, you can see where the camera is panning through, and it's panning through the Paris box. And when you see that, you're like, and the DLO becomes we see the DLO become disheveled, and we see it a hot mess. And that's what Oliver is going through. Like, it's showing his inner turmoil in the mess and the craziness, and him putting Shane away. And
it becomes
everything.
A graveyard for failed attempts, doesn't it?
It does. And
it really does.
He becomes angry. You can see he is fighting himself in this whole situation. And I feel like because his dad said that, and he respects his dad now, especially because they now have a restored relationship. I feel like that just kind of put the nail in the coffin for Oliver and Shane in that moment, because like, I mean, he's not wrong. Joe is not wrong. And it is perfectly well and fine for Joe to say that to his son, to give that advice, because again, it's true. A kiss does not make a contract, but for Oliver and his personality and how he is, it's like, perhaps we could have said it a little differently. Like, I don't know.
So you bring up a really, really good point that Oliver becomes angry. And for a man like Oliver, things get done when he's angry.
And I think this is also the first time when they're around the poker table, he expresses his anger. Mm-hmm. Everything has been shoved in his heart. Like, everything has been very like,
it's true,
pushed down. Like, whenever they go to the E-flat lounge or whatever, he's like, oh wait, I've been there. You know, he's like shoving his emotions. He's shoving Shane away. He's like suppressing what he's feeling. But then in this moment, when they're talking about Gabe and Hattie and, you know, all of this stuff, he says, no man should wait for someone to come around. Like, and you're like, ooh, that's like a sick burn right there. And then he's like, excuse me, and leaves. And you're like,
Yeah.
He's angry. And sometimes people who are just like solemnly angry are scarier than people who just have an outburst.
Yeah.
It's true, because you never know when they're going to have that outburst and how much is going to build up. And Norman has become so good at diplomacy.
He sees through Oliver. He gets to the heart of the matter, and it just shows us how much he's grown. I mean, he's the one who leaves the table. I mean, Norman was kind of clueless in many ways at the beginning of the series,
Yeah.
and he's really become intuitive, and he picks up on that. And he also leaves the highest poker hand on the table, a royal flush.
My gosh. Just I'm out too.
Like,
I don't know much
Rita
about
being like, you know what this is, right?
I don't know much
you could
about
have won the
poker, but I
game.
know that's good.
It's the highest hand. It's the royal flush.
Could have won the hand. He could have won a ton of money, or at least a ton of chips that night.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I completely agree with you on Norman, because he is never the one to be forward. I think the last time we saw him being forward with a situation was with Phoebe. But
Yeah.
he had that connection with Phoebe because she didn't have parents at that moment. Her mom was presumed dead. Norman had been orphaned as a young child. He was bullied as a young child. Phoebe was getting bullied. So you had that connection there. With Oliver and Norman, it's very much a big brother, little brother relationship, with Norman being the little brother. Norman's always asking Oliver, like, what can I do next? Oh, sure, I'll do that for you. Oh, sure, I'll go here for you. I'll do this.
Or getting the advice from Oliver, like with the raft conversation, getting things like that.
Always getting the advice. And then in this moment, Norman calls Oliver out, which is big. First of all, little brothers don't call out big brothers, like, unless the situation calls for it. And that situation definitely called for it. Second of all, he is an employee of Oliver. Employees don't call their bosses out. Third of all, this has to do with a very touchy, deep relationship, which again, for Norman, who is very much not a, I don't want to say he's not an emotional person, but he is very withdrawn from people, especially in the beginning. He's very much a like from Paris with Love, or not From Paris with Love. It was one of the earlier movies. I can't remember exactly which one at this point, but basically they were like, "We're so sorry, Oliver." It was For Paris with Love. They're looking at the mailbox shoot.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Norman's like, "I guess I'm sorry too." Yeah. And they're like, "Yes, you're sorry. Like, be emotional." But
Right.
for Norman, he embodies that big brotherhood, and he says exactly what Oliver needs to hear, which is, waiting for your mom to come back, and waiting for Holly to come back, and waiting for, he says, your wife to come back, and waiting for Shane to come back. And it's like, you're putting everything out there into words that Oliver is suppressing right now. And he needs these things to come up because he needs to do something about it.
And he's the one who reminds Oliver, you and I have a whole lot more to hope for than Gabe. And he's the one that's singing. It's beautiful. And then Norman says he has a secret, a good one, because the bad ones hurt his heart, but he's got a good one. But we have to wait to hear what that secret is, even though we all know what it is. But it's still cute that they leave us hanging in some form. And Oliver does fly to Langley to account for an employee who has been gone for 3 months without paperwork.
Which is a very valid point from a supervisor's standpoint.
It is.
Incredibly valid, but incredibly false for his reasons.
But I mean, if you're going to get in legitimately, you need a legitimate excuse. And
absolutely.
If an employee has been gone for 3 months without any paperwork, and you've been covering for her, regardless of what your relationship with her is or not, we still need some paperwork, which, by the way, is a little confusing as to why she didn't have any paperwork to begin with.
Yeah.
Like,
that is true. It's such a covert mission, I guess. They couldn't show her as being away.
I guess. I
Yeah.
mean,
But I think it's so funny that I would either like the paperwork or I'd like my employee
Employee
back.
back.
I'm like, I think you want your employee back more. So, she's critical to the mission. Oh, I'll bet she is. Just, whoa, Oliver's getting sarcastic. That means watch out,
he's
everybody.
pretty salty in this
He is-
whole scene.
He
so
is
salty.
he is a pillar of salt.
Oh my goodness.
Especially when he sees somebody walking toward him.
I have a lot of mixed emotions about that entire exchange.
Okay, so give it to us. Come on.
Well, like at first it's fine, I think. I'm trying to remember exactly like the whole wordplay, but I totally get Oliver, but in some reasons he's being a little petty because in a truly covert mission, yes, you're gonna have a phone.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
a work phone. And you're not gonna be allowed to have contact. And so for some reasons I feel bad for Shane because she's trying to explain it to him and he's just acting like she's been lying. But at the same time I get it. Like he's upset, he's hurting, he's gone through this waiting game before with Holly and stuff.
Shane is very innocent in all of this.
Yeah.
Just she
I feel
goes and
bad
does
for
what
Shane.
she told. Yeah, she goes and she does what she's told. She's following the rules of the mission. She does a lot of Steve says, and like that's very childlike of her. Not childish, but she's relying very heavily
She puts a lot
on
of
what
trust in Steve.
Mhm.
Yes, she relies very heavily on what Steve says.
Some misplaced trust.
What I'm
Yes.
doing is very important. That's what Steve says. I'm like, are you 10? Yeah, but when you're in, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I think you're
But-
gonna say what I'm saying.
Well,
Go
no,
ahead.
I mean, but for Shane, and we know this from the pilot, Shane has always been a rule follower up until the point that her father passed away.
Right.
And at that moment, when Shane walks into the DLO for the very first time, she's not the healthiest of herself. Like,
Right.
she's still going through these turmoils with her father passing away, her not able to reconcile with him. Like, she's not the best part of herself yet. And so when Oliver meets more of a unhealthier Shane who's willing to break the rules, who's willing to be like, whatever, I don't care, let's do this. So he's used to her bending the rules, breaking the rules, whatever. Shane has now grown up a lot in this series so far, and she has now become the healthiest part of herself because she even admits to him like hacking, and he's like, you're not gonna, don't say anything that you're gonna have to say in court. And she's like, okay. Old Shane would have been like, you know what, it's fine, we got this, we've done this multiple times before. But now she's like, okay, that's fine. So because work is a very much a pride and joy for Shane, she's the healthiest part of herself, so she is going to follow the rules. She is going to abide by what Steve says, especially because they had a previous relationship and they've known each other for many, many years, obviously, at this point.
Yeah.
So she has no reason to doubt Shane or to doubt Steve. Now, Oliver, because he's seen her through all these things, he's seen her break the rules. In his mind, he's like, you've broken rules before. Why are you not breaking the rules now?
Yeah,
and it's almost like he doesn't quite grasp it. He might know it in his heart, but he just doesn't, he can't grasp it, especially with his lack of technology, because he doesn't get the fact that like you can have a work only phone.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing.
Burner phones are not always the answer.
How do you know about burner phones?
We watch action movies on poker night. But Steve is the culprit in this one. Oliver takes a bit of his anger because he's really mad at Steve here. He takes some of his anger out on Shane, even though she is completely innocent in this. She's doing what she knows to be right. She is doing everything based on her orders, which she is getting from Steve. And it's very disturbing how quickly he fesses up. I'm like, okay, yeah, fine. Crisis is over. I'm like, oh, you dirtbag.
The only reason why Shane confronts him is because Oliver plays that mind game with her.
Exactly,
and
that was a really good bluff. That was a good one.
Oliver's learning so much from poker.
But that's the exact reverse psychology that Shane needed to go confront Steve.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Otherwise she would have been like, I'm here. Do, 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 do.
No, it was, yeah, she needed to hear that even though Oliver was bluffing, but what she really needed to hear is, I can't lie to you. I know. I'm just wondering if Steve can. Oh,
You know, that very touching statement, and then we also get, I'd like my pen back. And I'm like,
oh,
this is like this scene is a roller coaster of emotions. Like, you're up, you're down. I'm like, I don't know what to feel.
So much.
And she nails the coffin when she puts the nail in the coffin, because if you notice, he's going back and forth and he almost believes her, almost. But then when she says, I found Hattie, he's like, great. And she's like, I was going to follow up after this was done, but now you're here. Here you go. That is the key. That is the sign to Oliver. She's saying, you know what? I'm probably not going to come home. So here's Hattie, and you take it and you run with it. In Oliver's mind, she is giving Shane.
I thought that it's going to be much longer, and so I want you to get this over as quickly as possible.
Well, yeah, from Shane's point of view, but from Oliver's point of view, because she's giving Hattie back the one thing that was that was a guarantee that she would come back, because she's so dedicated to Hattie. She's now returning to him. And so in Oliver's mind, he's like, first of all, you don't believe me about Steve and you being here. And second of all, you're returning your portion of the letter story detective-y stuff back to me, which indicates to me that you have no intentions of coming home, is like a nail in the coffin for Oliver.
It's true. Oh, but the trip wasn't completely wasted, because after he goes to Langley, he flies to
Austin,
Texas.
My territory, Austin, Texas. And we'll just let you guys think that was filmed in Austin. But he finds Hattie, which, are you telling me he's still alive? Oh, it's just, it is so beautiful. And the reunion between Hattie and Gabe, I think the only reason why it was as subdued as it was is because it was in front of people. You know.
But I love too that the song he's singing is his handed over song, and that's a callback to when she told him, you got to hand all that over to the Lord.
Oh my gosh.
And then
the music.
Once he stops playing, shout out to James Jandris, because there's an instrumental tone when they actually truly reunite. It's so beautiful.
Oh,
I'm sorry, James, what was that, Miss Mop? What?
Shush.
Oh, clean up on aisle Jess.
There are no tears. There are no tears. But my heart is touched.
Okay, now this is where I'm going to need it.
Oh dear.
Because we have one of the best parts in this entire movie. When Ramon says, you're leaving, and Oliver says, he'll do just fine. You know exactly what's about to happen. And this scene is so beautifully written, so emotionally charged, and so incredibly acted. I can't do this.
You want one of us to take over for you?
When he says, I thought of a nickname for you. Rita, Moon River, Hayworth, Dorman.
And Rita's like, what? okay, before we go into that, the nickname thing is a callback to one of the previous movies where Rita's like, I wish I had a nickname, and they're going back and forth.
That's here.
No, it happens in a previous movie.
It happened. Yeah, it happens
2 times,
previously,
yeah.
and then it happens previously, and then it
happens.
fleshes out.
Right, right. But I love that it was another connection, another thing to a previous movie. I love how these things are like the continuation. It brings the continuity within the movies, and oh my goodness, when Norman and Rita are there together and Rita is just like, da 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 da, you ready to go? And she's like, she is so innocent. And when Norman he shares that nickname that he's come up with for Rita's face, I love her face. I love the fact that it's like bombshell right here. Like, what did you just say? What?
Did I hear that right?
Especially for Rita, one who's probably like, yeah, she's always been very romantic. She's always been in love with Norman, but it's happening. Like, this is happening. This is happening.
Oliver. Norman's being bold again.
He's being bold. He's grown up. And his face is like a little puppy.
He had to know she was gonna say yes.
Oh yeah.
But the fact that she said yes, I'll marry you, and then he just begins to sob, and all he can say is thank you.
He's so innocent.
Yeah. And that moment too, when Norman is telling Rita all the things he wants with her, together in life.
Oh my god!
I
love the sweetest thing.
It is. It's so sweet, and I just love how Martha writes it because it's such an emotionally charged moment, and everyone we're all sobbing here. But then he's also like,
he's totally Norman.
Yeah, he's totally Norman because then he talked about potatoes, and then he's talking about children. He's like, I'm talking about children, not potatoes.
I love that line. I'm talking about children now.
It's so Norman.
Yeah, I got that.
It's so Norman.
On the floor.
Oh, the scooting on the floor, and him saying, "I don't think I'll make you as happy as you'll make me, but I'm gonna try every day for the rest of my life." It's just, oh my gosh! Okay, you guys also know that I have a thing with saying "I love you too." It's kind of like an afterthought. It's a copycat thing.
Yeah.
And so when they do the knee scoot to give the hug and he says, "I love you," and she says, "I love you so much," and I went, "There's no two." Yes. And then of course Big Brother is outside overhearing all of the boisterous happiness, and he's just quietly saying, he did it.
He did it. And I love that when they start squealing and screaming, Norman and Rita, because we had the very quiet I love yous and that very romantic moment, but then all of a sudden they stand back up and they're like,
they're Norman and Rita.
Yes, they very much are themselves.
They start they're just squealing and they're like, we're getting married to each other. I love that. And I love how he picks her up and swings her around and they have that kiss, and it's just it's so perfect for these two characters who've come so far since the pilot. You had Norman and Rita who were constantly we have these really big crushes on each other, but Norman's must not look at Rita.
All we can do is bang into each other.
Bang.
Yeah, and then there's Rita that's always like, "Hi, Norman." And then 6 inches apart, they're very much we don't know how to become a thing, but now they've really become a couple that are their hearts are knit together.
That's a really good way of putting it. So let's do some more knitting. Oliver's walking around all night again.
Because he never sleeps.
And I think he must have walked most of the day because because it looks to be late afternoon, early evening when he finally goes back to the DLO. And
yeah, well, he sees Gabe on the way in Hattie, so it's
Right.
Sunday morning.
It was
Or
Sunday
maybe not
morning.
Sunday morning. Maybe they just went there together.
I think they just went there, but yeah, and then we see something very familiar that had been moved, and then he turns around and he sees a coat on the coat rack that does not usually go there.
And he also walks through different doors. Usually he walks through the doors out in the back. This one he walks in through the doors through like closer to the mailboxes, if you notice.
I did not.
Yeah. Normally Oliver, so like there are 2 entries to the DLO.
Okay.
There's the one in the very back, like where you can see Oliver's desk and you can see straight back this way.
Okay.
And then
he would have seen her if he came in that way. If he came in that way, he would have seen her immediately. But he came in through the side entry. Because if you notice, he goes to the fridge, he grabs the Yoo-hoo, then he starts walking again, and then he's at this moment where he sees desk, coat, chair.
And we have the turning around to reveal someone who has been gone for over 3 months.
And it's a very familiar scene of someone turning around who had been gone for a very long time.
Very long time.
Cares of love, Miss Holly.
So the first thing of all the things that she could say to him, she talks about the kombucha recipe. Oh my gosh, I just did it!
I didn't know if that was intentional. It's like, should I correct you?
So of all things that she could talk to him about, she talks about the kombucha recipe, the roses, and the desk. And I love how all 3 of those things, it's digs, it's fishing for information, it's getting him to talk, because the only way that he's going to be able to get past all this is by talking business first. And then Steve says once again,
oh, but this time she uses it as a dig. It's
I know.
I don't care what Steve says anymore, but I'm going to use this as ammo.
I know, but it's still, it brings back the Steve says, like, oh my gosh, Steve.
Steve's been misleading her this whole time. Yet Steve says, but Steve is right in that
Steve says
does not always say what he means. And she's just fishing for she's just fishing for him to say stuff because she knows why he moved her desk.
Yeah,
right.
She's smart. I feel like that's not, I feel like it's kind of obvious, but she wants him to say it. She wants him to say that he missed her.
And when he says it, she still has to interpret. So you mean you missed me? Like, let's work on getting succinct sentences here.
So you mean you're competitive too?
Okay. But she knows him that well to know that if she just starts throwing out darts, he's going to immediately clam up, and that's not good for the relationship. She needs
Very true.
And if she attacks him, that's not good for the relationship. So she really, really needs him to open up and just say exactly what he needs to say. Because if he doesn't, she was the one that was away. She was the one that kept bringing up Steve. She was the one that, didn't find any ways to communicate with him. So she needs him to just open up what he's been feeling so that she can kind of not defend herself, but she can, combat that and make him feel like everything's okay. Because if she just says, oh, I'm here now, everything should be fine, he's gonna be like, I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay. This next line, I tried to copy it down word for word, but it was taking me forever. So I'm going to leave it as...
You mean you don't have it memorized?
Nope, I do not.
Which one?
So
I don't always say what I
his
mean, but
big-
when I mean it, I say it.
Oh man, his big, huge, long monologue. I was like, okay, this is
Or
gonna take
whatever.
me forever to write down, so never mind. So what I got is your intentions and mine were
We're not in concert. Now that's a very, very big
That's a low
diss.
blow.
That's
a low blow.
That
It
is a big diss.
Well,
of Oliver.
it makes her angry, because if you're suggesting that I didn't miss you, and I might be the only person on earth who understands that, and then she just bam whips out the letter, boom, boom, and then she starts getting emotional, like, do you realize how hard this was for me? Oh,
I love the fact that she wrote letters. I love the fact that she used it as ammo in that moment, because the way to Oliver's heart, besides a kiss,
Is
make a
gonna-
contract in his mind.
it's
the
not
written,
through his stomach.
No, it is through the written word, and that is the exact reassurance that Oliver needed to see and hear and read. What were those letters? Because had she not done that, what was she gonna do? Like, if she didn't write letters, she's like, I thought of you every day. Well, okay, you can't prove it to me. But when she started, and it's not like 3 letters, it's like a whole stinking stack of letters.
Yeah, it looks like about 10 or 12. I didn't count.
It looked like a couple dozen. It looked like to me when it started going everywhere, and then they picked it all up.
That looked like a couple dozen. You're right.
And when she starts going off and she's like, this one I wrote on the plane, and I talked about kissing you on the steps, and you could see Oliver's face just all of a sudden go from angry
I'm a jerk
to his walls are crumbling down. Like,
completely.
His walls were completely up and probably like doubled over, tripled over. He had a very big fortress around his heart. And as soon as she whipped that letter out and she starts going off on him, he's just melting. And he feels so bad for how he treated her just then. And he feels so bad about like the fact that he doubted that she loved him and missed him. Now, they didn't say the I love you thing yet, but
not yet.
But there is, again, their hearts are knit together.
Well, and the only way that he can possibly make it up to her,
and the only way he could get her to shut up.
Well, there is that. And I think the only way to show that his intentions and hers were in concert, I seriously wonder how many, this is so unromantic of me, but I seriously wonder how many takes it took to get that.
It took 3.
That's right. I could not remember. It was like, I know she said something, but like, how many takes did it take to not whack him in the face on her way around? You know?
Kristen said that it took about 3 takes. It was the last one, take that we saw, and she might have stepped on his foot a couple times. But they did not bang heads.
That was a good thing. But that, oh my gosh, that kiss, and then showing it from all the different angles, showing that he is taking his time, just like Dad said, that he needed to take his time the next chance he got to kiss her. And then she can't help herself. She has to finish. I thought of you every day.
That kiss.
Oh, that's where I needed my fans. I was like, okay.
Wait,
whoa.
There was a kiss in this movie? What?
Oh, shut your mouth.
But I'm not gonna lie. I've seen a good fair share of kisses in movies, but that's
a pretty good one.
This one ranks very, very high.
Very high.
I mean, you have the anger, you have the frustration, you have the tension built up. All of a sudden, you have the pull, the spin, the kiss, and then it's like a kiss. Like a real kiss.
It's a kiss. Oh man.
Like, I don't know that I can I don't know if there's another movie that has a kiss as romantically built up and played out like that, because
Are we talking movies, or are we talking TV shows as well?
television, anything that you put and see on your television. I mean, I don't know.
I can think of a few that come pretty dang close. And I can think of several scenes where I've melted completely into the ground. But that is definitely one that has all the elements, checks all the boxes, and yeah, leaves you feeling a little warm.
Bring on the fans.
Well, and then to follow it up, what does he bring out? He brings out the napkin, which shows that she has been with him that entire time. And then what a line to say after, how have you been? After a kiss like that, how have you been? But of course it was a much deeper how have you been. And she said exactly what he needed to hear. Lonely. It's amazing how much can be said with one word, because the napkin showed that she had been with him the whole time, and lonely showed even more than I thought of you every day. The fact that she had been lonely showed that he had never left her that entire time. And what do we do now? I so thought he was going to propose right then and there. I know that's what I was supposed to think, but I'm like, he's going down. Oh, he's picking up the letters.
Just flabbergasted. Because I was like, wait, she literally just came back. Like, what?
Why not?
I was like, wait.
I thought it was completely out of character for him to do something so off the cuff, but I really thought he was going to do it. And then I'm going to make you the perfect kombucha smoothie. I'm like, oh, he's not proposing. Okay.
When he says, I'm going to make you, I was like, and he pauses, I was like, you're going to make her your wife. Your wife? And yes, my voice is getting higher because of the shock factor. I mean, like, I just come down from this whole romantic scene and this kiss, and then he gets down on one knee, and then, like, why am I talking up here? And then he just this kombucha recipe, and I'm like, wait, what? Wait, my emotions right now are just very much turned around.
Down. And you are going to read me all of your letters. That could take all night.
Good.
Oh!
Wink.
Oh, man. Oh, so amazing. So beautiful. Okay. We got to hurry through the trivia. All right. Number 1. Name 2 of the nicknames that Norman thought of for Rita.
Reets and Riri.
Oh, wow, you guys said the same one. Very good. Reedster and Reets Meats.
Yes, Reets Meats.
All right. Number 2. What was the name of the woman that Gabe met in Louisiana?
Ooh,
in the shelter?
I don't remember.
Mary Jo.
Not
I don't
even
know.
Close. Violet.
Oh.
Violet. Okay, number 3. What was the name of the dish that involved patole that Ramon thought of in the mailbox grill? Because remember, he's thinking up all of these clever names for his dishes because he now owns the mailbox grill. Priority mail patole. Priority Priority mail patole. Okay, what am I on for?
Yes.
Number 4. How many churches are there in Denver?
7,000.
Wow, that's a lot of churches, Jess.
I don't.
1,726.
Nope, that's closer. 1,057 is what they said.
I knew there was a 1,000. I knew there was a 7 in there somewhere.
Well, you got the 1 and the 7. Okay. Final one. What is Joe's name for Steve? What is Joe's name for Steve?
Skunk?
Huh?
No, not a skunk. This
No,
is the
that's
wrong TV show.
One calls the heart, Casey. One calls
a snake? No, it's he says something.
Jess, anything?
I don't know it.
Mr.
Security?
Mr. National Security.
National Security. Okay.
Mr. National Security. And then he said, and then of course he says, I think in a way maybe he is a fertilizer salesman.
Fertilizer salesman. That was what I was thinking of too.
Well, that wasn't Joe's name for Steve, but he said, I think he's also a fertilizer salesman. All right. Not bad, you two. Not bad. All right, Postables, thank you so much for joining us. We will be back for an even more in-depth look at this wonderful movie of ours next week. See you then.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode. For more juicy details and to hear what's coming up, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at DeliverMeAPod and on Instagram at DeliverMeAPodcast. And please check out our merch store for tons of Postables inspired merchandise to enhance your fandom. See you next week.